And hey everybody, this is Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, with a very basic lesson for anyone who might just be starting into the machine trades or an engineering class. You know, we do things a little differently. I'm sure you've all seen tape measures and wooden rulers around the house, and maybe even use them in school. But what we use are scales. We don't call them rulers in our trade, we call them scales. So if you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, don't ever say, "Can I borrow your ruler?" Your scale. So tonight we're going to go over how to read 1 inch in English on a machinist scale. Scales come in all different sizes. This is a 6-inch one, which fits very nicely into your lab coat pocket or your apron. Very handy. Always keep one handy. I've got several because I lose them all the time, then I find them. Scales come in all different sizes. This is an 18-inch scale. Same thing. You read it the same way. It's just a longer version. So I'm going to go through tonight the basics of how to read 1 inch of an English scale, and hopefully after you master 1 inch, it's the same for every inch. 2 inches, 3 inches, same thing. So this is your first lesson on basic measurement, and believe me, I use a scale still 5 times a day. After 30 years, I still use my scale all the time. So this is a good lesson, and you'll need to learn how to read a scale and use it when you start your new job or your new class. Alright, so here we go, learning how to read a ruler. And this side of this particular scale, as we call it in the tool and die and machinist trades, is listed in 64ths and in 30 seconds of an inch. What I'm going to show you is we're going to concentrate on just this first inch, because if you can learn 1 inch, it just starts over again for the next inch. So if you can learn how to read this scale, you'll be fine. This is the first inch. Again, the top of the scale is in 30 seconds of an inch. The bottom is in 64ths. So let's keep it basic here. We know this long line here represents, that's an inch from here to here. First thing we should just learn is how to divide it up into quarters. 1/4, 2/4, which is a half, 3/4, 1. So they make it easy for you so you can see the quarter of inch mark. So there's 4 quarters in an inch. Pretend it's a dollar bill. There's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 equals $1. So that's your first lesson. Let's divide it in quarters. Then we're going to divide it into eighths of an inch, 1/8. And 1/8 is what? A quarter divided by 2 is an eighth. Maybe you didn't know that, but that's what it is. So now we have 1/8 of an inch increments. 1/8, 2/8, which is a quarter, 3/8, 4/8, which is a half, 5/8, 6/8, which is 3/4, 7/8, and 1 inch again. So let's backtrack. There's 4 quarters in a dollar, right? 4 quarters in an inch. 1, 2, 3. There's the fourth. How many eighths would they bring in an inch? Well, there'd be 8 eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 eighths. The next line they've got on here is the 1/16, which is just a little shorter than this line. Again, how many sixteenths would there be in an inch? 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're at a half an inch, 8/16. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 1 inch. Now this side of the scale gets a little more complicated. Not complicated, there's a lot of divisions here. After a 16th, the next division is a 32nd. And then that's these next longer lines. How many 30 seconds in an inch? Of course, 32. And let's just go halfway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So times 2, there'd be 32 30 seconds in 1 inch. And this scale is in 64ths on this side, and that's the smallest thing you'll see on a scale, is a 64th of an inch. How many 64ths are there in 1 inch? 64. Let's not go through the whole thing, but you get it. If you count all these lines now, all of them, to the 1 inch, there'll be 64 lines here. So that's the basics. Just start with, if you can learn to just do your quarters first, 1/4, 2/4, which is a half an inch, 50 cents, right? 3/4, 75 cents, 1 inch. And then you can divide quarters, and then you get your eighths. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 eighths in an inch. It'll always add up. The only difference between this side of the scale and this side of the scale on the top is they've eliminated the 64th, so it's a little easier to read depending on what you're working on. So this side, all they've done really is eliminated all these small lines. There aren't any 64ths in between them. So this is a little easier to read. But as you can see, it's still very easy to find the half-inch mark because that's the longest line. The quarters are the second longest line, and the eighths the third longest line, and the 32nds are the fourth longest line. So they make it easy for you to read it that way. The one thing I do want to say, if you're a little confused, what that 4 means is that that's the mark where there's 4 30-seconds. The 8 is 8 30-seconds. That's not how you pronounce it, of course. That's a quarter of an inch, 8 30-seconds. So why is that a quarter? Just if you really want to know, divide 8 by 32. 8 30-seconds, 8 over 32, and that's 0.250, quarter inch, 25 cents. The only difference again between these two sides of the scale is they've added 64ths if you're trying to measure something a little closer than that. The older you get, the harder that is to read. So that concludes reading a scale up to 1 inch. Just remember to get if you're learning, to start off, find your half-inch mark. There's 2 halves and a whole, so there's only 2 of those marks until you get to 1 inch. Then divide those by 2, and then there's your 4 quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your eighths, and so on. And then the next side of the scale we'll start on is the graduations in decimal inches.